Welcome to another episode of Dying with Diabetes in America. You have myself, Michelle Robinson, the muse, some would call it, of the show. And then you have the brains of the operation, Mr. Myke Herlihy.
Well, if I am the brains, we are in more trouble than I thought.
Beauty, brains. Okay?
Oh, I'm the beauty and the brains. Nice, thank you.
You're so adorable.
Yes. I'm beauty, brains, and adorable. You're so sweet today. Thank you for that. How have you been?
It's because my blood sugar's a little high. I'm giving off some sweetness right now.
I get you. I
So-
get you. You got that extra sugar in you, so you're just trying to
I
exude
do.
some of
I'm
it out.
just seeping it out. Just
I like it.
oozing.
It has been a day. I got stung by a wasp today.
I read about that.
It was
Sorry.
yeah. I don't know if you can see. You can't see it.
Oh.
It's there, but it's like right there.
Oh,
And
that's so sad.
and it's funny enough. In 43 years, this is the first time I've ever been stung.
That's
So
incredible.
so I didn't know. I've never been tested to see if I'm allergic. So I just figured as soon as I got stung, I sat there a little bit confused because if you're allergic to something, you grab your EpiPen if you
Yeah.
have one because you have allergies. But if you don't
Exactly.
know if you're allergic, all you can really do is sit there and go, "Oh, I hope I don't die." And
Can I still
it
breathe?
was
Can I still
yeah,
breathe? I can.
but
Okay, it's good.
we had these hurricanes coming, or this hurricane was supposed to be coming through. So I was trying to get the yard work
Don't
done.
laugh. Our
Mhm.
northern neighbors have felt it, but
Right.
it wasn't us for once.
So I just went inside the house and I grabbed an ice pack out of the freezer and I put it on. I still had half the lawn to finish. So I grabbed some duct tape because every man we might not have EpiPens, but we have duct tape. And I
There's
just
nothing wrong with
wrapped it
that.
around and I went out and just figured if I'm going to die, I'm going to die with a nice manicured lawn. And I guess I'm not allergic. But then I started thinking, I'm like, you know me, I hate needles. Like
Mhm.
despise needles and I fear needles and
I mean, I
all I can
wouldn't call you a wuss
no when it
per
comes to
se.
needles I'm a wuss.
You
And
scream
people
like a
ask me,
girl.
yeah, a little bit. And in a different life I did like everything sideshow, like laid on a bed of nails, had someone break a cinder block over me, ate
Mhm.
fire, put a mouse trap on my tongue,
Mhm.
pounded a screwdriver up my nose, and then people are like, "How can you be scared of needles?" I'm like, "They pinch." Like
Sorry.
everything else is fine. But this was 43 years, and I think this was the fear of getting stung compared to what it actually felt like made me
Yeah.
go, "Oh, that was it." Like it hurt, but it was nowhere near the respect I've given these wasps all my life. Like where
I
I run in the
completely
other
agree.
direction. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you been stung before?
I have. I have.
Yeah.
I've gotten wasps. I've gotten the black flies, the horse flies.
Oh, I hate the horse flies.
And I
Yeah.
think the horse flies are
They
honestly the
bite. They don't
worst.
sting. They
Just because
bite.
those bastards, yeah, but those
Mhm.
bastards wait for you. Like you
Yeah.
go under the water and you're like, I'll
Mhm.
just give it a minute. And you come back up and they're like, bam, you were
Mhm.
waiting for what?
And here's the thing I don't like. Like we have bees out by my pool, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind bees because
Mm-hmm.
bees almost like know they get one sting and then that's it.
They
So
won't
bees,
screw with you as much.
yeah, as long as you don't mess with them, they're not messing with you. And I can live in that kind of world. That's been pretty much my motto. Like you don't mess with me, I don't mess with you. But wasps are like little guys with knives that are just like I can do this over and over. I can be here all day. So
Doesn't matter. It's just going to keep going until you
so
die.
it was a like painful burning thing, and then now that the swelling's gone down, it didn't swell up bad, but now that it's gone down a bit, I can see where it went in because I was checking to see if it left like a stinger,
Right.
and it's like a little bullseye ring, like it's welting up
Mhm.
like a little miniature bagel. It's weird. It's like a ring in a ring, and yeah, and I went back there after I finished mowing the lawn, and I saw what it was. It was my arm had gone by a bush, and I guess
Oh,
he started to build his nest in this bush,
you
and
pissed them off.
I must have wasted not wasted. It was fair. I drowned. I drowned. I used
I'm
a
sorry,
whole
at that point, you set it
can.
on fire. If you have a cement house,
Mm.
you set it on fire.
Yeah, it wasn't on the house. I got rid of a wasp nest last week that was. And I think this is
Fire.
I think this was the wasp he probably relocated over here, figuring, It's fine. So I
Better
wasted a
traffic.
yeah, I wasted better schools for the kids, and I, like, wasted used a whole can, like, overflow on this thing, and
Oh.
then I'd seen a video last week of a guy who just walked up to a wasp nest, grabbed it,
Okay,
squeezed it, put it in his
I
mouth.
saw you post that, and let
Mhm,
me just tell you, like, from the second he grabbed it, I'm like, "No, no, how can you do anything worse than that?"
mhm,
And no,
yeah.
no, no.
I am
Mm-mm.
so angry at this wasp and his family that I wanna hire that guy to come here and do it. 'Cause just a spray death or a torch death is too good for these guys.
Yeah,
This was personal. This was personal. So,
that's
but it's funny because
great.
when it stung me, I just started thinking, I'm like, we were talking to a guest, I think last week, was it Colleen,
That
who
would be
act
Colleen, yes.
who actually said she's one of those lucky ones, sarcastically, that
Mhm.
her body's actually allergic to almost every type of insulin. So
Yes.
when she injects insulin, it's not just a pinch, it's a pinch and a burning sensation. And it's funny because doing this podcast,
Mm.
my head automatically went to, I'm like, I wonder if that's how Colleen feels every time she has to take insulin,
Yeah?
which would be unbearable.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, she was one of the first people that I had heard, and I had read about other people being allergic to some of the proteins or what have you in insulin, but
Hmm.
I'd never spoken to anybody about it. So it was really interesting getting her point of view
Yeah.
on, and all it made me think of was the older insulins because they were thicker. Like the consistency was actually thicker. You had to yank on that plunger to load up the needle.
Were those the ones you had like two vials and you had to shake them and mix
Yep.
them? What was the deal with that?
So that was very, very early on, and it's crazy that I was still doing it when you and I met, almost 2 years later. But yeah, I was having to mix my long-acting insulin in the mornings and in the evenings because I did 2 different
Hmm.
injections, and I had to mix them with my morning insulin of a rapid acting. But the
Hmm.
problem was it was so hard sometimes to get because it was so much thicker, the long acting. And then when you'd inject it, it would feel like cement.
Mm,
Like it would be a burning pain and or when you get a tetanus shot and you know how everything just feels so heavy and worthless.
mhm,
It's kind of the way it feels.
mhm.
So I have to say that I mean, the different insulins and how technology has come has made it easier, at least for me, but I can't imagine what she has to go through.
So I just remember my grandmother sitting there shaking the vials. Was it
Mhm.
you had to draw out one bottle, put it in another, and shake it, or did you have it?
N
How
You
did you
had to
mix it?
shake the long acting
Oh,
because the
okay,
long acting, it looked like powder, and so you'd shake it until it would go all cloudy. And
okay,
so you'd shake that, you'd inject it, and then you would go to your fast acting, which was nice and clear, and
okay.
you'd pull back how many you needed. You
Mm,
figured out how many you needed by a math equation that your doctor gave you.
mhm,
So your blood sugar is X. Mine
mhm,
that minus that from what your blood sugar should be,
mhm,
and that gives you a number. Divide that by your insulin sensitivity, that gives you a number. Then take how many carbohydrates you're eating in your entire meal, divide that by the percentage your doctor has given you. That gives you a number. Add the two numbers together from your blood glucose and then what you're eating, and that's how much you're going to take in a needle.
hmm.
So it was a
So
lot of fun stuff.
so you're long lasting, and the other one is the
Rapid
fast acting,
acting.
rapid
Hmm.
acting. Would would that be two separate injections, or you put
Yeah.
them in the same syringe?
It would back in the day when they told me it was okay to put them in the same syringe, I would put them in the same syringe. And then everything came out and they were like, "No, no, 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 no. You can't put them in the same syringe." I'm not entirely sure why. All I knew is I had to do another needle.
Jeez.
So then it was for every long acting you did a needle. For every short acting you did a needle. You would do a needle. You check your blood. Okay, the doctor wants you to check your blood 5 times a day. When
Mhm,
you get up in the morning, before you have lunch, before
mhm.
you have dinner, before bed. Oh no, that's only 4. They make up another one to let insurance companies make us test each other, make us make sure we test 5 times a day. No, I'm sorry. When you break your fast in the morning and when you have breakfast, it can change.
Sheesh. So,
So you check yourself and you give yourself a needle each time
mhm,
because your body doesn't have the ability to dispense insulin to fix it itself. And
mhm,
you don't want your blood sugar to go too high. That hurts. It hurts. It causes organ damage. You might end up in a coma in the hospital. You don't want it too low because when it's too low, you have seizures. Very, very few times when you and I first knew each other, when with the diabetes, did I go low. But I know there was a couple of times where I was out of it or non-responsive, and that was normally from me going low
okay.
because that's what it does. It can cause seizures, which is the huge problem that I was having. Was I was getting seizures then every single time I was going low, like massive, scary, had to call the ambulances, go to the hospital seizures. And it kills me because you explain the problems, or like when we had Melissa Oates, and she hadn't had her diabetes properly taken care of like it should have been when she was a kid because
Now,
of various reasons that she talked about. A lot of it was insurance or lack of
Melissa
insurance.
was the young lady who had been diagnosed when she was like 7 or 8,
Yeah.
but her mom didn't have
It didn't
insurance at
have
that
health
time?
insurance, and it just kind of went from there. She didn't see a proper doctor until she was in
Mhm,
her teens, and by then, she had already had problems enough, she ended up in the hospital, in the
mhm,
ICU, in diabetic ketoacidosis,
mhm,
and it wasn't because of her, it wasn't she didn't have the support system.
mhm.
And that's what kills me is if you don't have the support system and you don't have the ability to get the right things, how are you supposed to take care of yourself? It's like, do you prefer Advil or Aleve or Tylenol?
Usually just go with generic ibuprofen, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
If
you
you
have a special thing that makes you feel better, any kind of special thing, and
and
then
for
you're
some
told,
reason it works better for you.
yes,
Yeah.
and Tums against different antacids, whatever the case.
Mhm,
If something works the best for you, why wouldn't your insurance company, who you pay each month to,
mhm,
to take the best care of yourself,
mhm.
why wouldn't they approve it?
Well, the other thing I found really interesting about Melissa's story is when
Hmm.
she really she likes being employed. She likes working. She
Yeah.
likes earning her keep, for lack of a better word. And when she had moved out of state, she went to try and get she went to
Hmm.
try and get what she needed. She was going for her
Yes.
it wasn't a meter. She wanted the
The
was it
closed loop.
yeah, she wanted to do the
Yeah.
closed loop system, but for what she would have to pay for it was more than what she was earning a week. And they actually advised her to
That
go
was
on
oh,
full disability so that she could that was Melissa, correct?
I believe, yes, it was Melissa, and
Okay.
it was when she had a job, and then yes, she tried to
Mhm,
get on the pump. She found out it would cost her more than what she was making,
mhm,
what she was paying out in her own health insurance. They advised her to go on disability. She got on disability.
mhm,
And now she's even more excited because, like, she's got everything under control, covered at a comfortable percentage, a
mhm,
percentage that you can live with.
mhm.
And she gets to go back to work. I
Right.
mean, she doesn't work full time, that's okay, but she puts in more now, and
Mm.
that changed her world.
To me, that's just one of the major issues we keep bumping into with everybody we interview. It's the one thing I've really learned is diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, affects
Mhm,
everybody differently as far as what they're able to do. We had Tracy Herbert on here who,
mhm.
can bike ride across the country and do all these
That
great
woman
things.
can fast. She actually convinced me, she didn't convince me, but hearing her story and reading more
Mm.
about her, so I've started fasting. And
Oh,
it's
even after she spent 5 minutes telling you not to.
yeah, no, I don't do the 24-hour fasts, like, no, 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 but my doctor had actually said, like, "Why don't you try to
Suggested
start fasting?"
the
Yeah.
intermittent
So,
fasting.
yeah, intermittent
Okay.
fasting, and he
Mhm,
he gave me this thing of how to work up to it, and there's
mhm,
actually a free app called, like, Zero or something,
mhm.
and it helps track your fasting hours, but I've
Okay.
gotten up to, like, 13 hours of fasting so far without
Mhm,
it hurting. It doesn't hurt my blood sugar. If my blood
mhm,
sugar goes low, I take juice and I end my fast,
mhm,
whatever, just like she had suggested. But it's giving me a little bit more energy when I
mhm.
eat. I don't feel as sluggish. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it works out for me.
Have you seen any other results, like you losing a little bit of weight or just more of
Okay.
an energy thing, or what's going on?
TMI. Shark Attack Week. That's automatically going to make me be like 3 pounds heavier, of
Oh,
course,
okay.
dying
Alright.
of wounds. Um, I'm actually down 2 pounds from my normal weight
Oh, okay.
on
Alright.
Shark Attack Week. So if I want to be all hoo hoo, it's like 5 pounds.
Okay, fair
Be
enough, fair
optimistic.
enough. But back to, the thing with Melissa and the
Hmm.
insurance, diabetes affects everybody differently,
Yes.
and it seems ridiculous that insurance companies and Medicare and Medicaid have a kind of cookie cutter, "You're diabetic, this is what we do for you." Because people can it varies so much person to person. There should be a system in place where people like Melissa who are like, "I have a great job. I wanna keep working at my job. I just don't
Hmm.
wanna." I think she said it the best. She's like, "I wanna go to work, but I don't wanna die." And
Exactly.
it shouldn't be that choice of, well, you either go on full disability and now you're home feeling useless and like a
Hmm.
burden to everybody,
Hmm.
or, yeah, we appreciate you want to go to work. Let's see what we can do to get you your meter and your Dexicom and your strips and everything at a reasonable rate. Because in what world do you go to someone who's willing to pay a certain amount and go, nah, it's better if we just keep you home for free? Because it's not just
You'll
about,
be fine.
yeah, and let's get you into all these other programs that we'll now pay for,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Taking money away from other people who honestly do need it
mm-hmm,
from, whatever their cases may be. I understand, like, personally, I know there's a lot of diabetics that
mm-hmm,
have it worse and have it better. We all
mm-hmm,
go through the differences of having it worse and having it better.
mm-hmm,
So, whether you're insulin resistant or you burn like poor Colleen,
mm-hmm,
or you are so insulin sensitive that, and I did a quick questionnaire on Facebook, and it amazed me, from a person having to take 1 unit of insulin for me, it's every 14 carbohydrates that I eat. Some
mm-hmm,
people are down for 1 unit for every 2 carbohydrates they eat. Some people are one to every 50.
mm-hmm,
Like, that should show the extremeness of it,
mm-hmm.
and that it shouldn't just, if your insurance company is going to tell you what doctors you can go to, how often you have to see them, how often you're going to get blood work, and then not approve the prescription that that doctor's writing,
Mhm.
how does that make sense?
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And I hate to say it, but I think there's also, and I've been guilty of it. You see someone parking handicap parking when you go to the store and they get out and they're walking just fine. You're like, oh, no, no. If you can walk, you don't get to park in handicap. And I think there's that stigma out there with when you hear someone's on disability. And then the first thing
Hmm.
people do is go, you look and it's like, you got legs? You got arms? How the hell
Yeah.
are you on disability? And I've never even, until talking to her, I've never even considered that there's some people on disability that have all their appendages and can move around and look just fine, but they didn't choose to be on it. It was a
Right.
financial thing where it's, I'm either going to work all week and still owe money to pay for my medication, or
Hmm.
I'm going to get the medication I need. And I think that adds to the stigma when you automatically hear someone's on disability and they look fine to you. You think,
And
oh, they're just ripping off the government and they're
yeah.
ripping off taxpayers, and that's not the case.
And I mean, I've tried to bring it up in ways, for friends and family to see it. It's
Mhm,
like, I've brought up the cost of insulin when, unfortunately, we were all out of jobs and
mhm,
insurance wasn't to be had. And I got a bill for $1,300 for a
mhm.
1 month supply of my insulin.
What's that like? 4 vials, $300 a pop, something
It
like that?
was actually it was 5. I had pushed them for 5 at that.
Mhm,
No, 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 you're right, 4 vials because I couldn't get them above that.
mhm,
They've always been really picky, like, they will only give you so many glucometer strips. So that
mhm.
means that they feel you should only be checking yourself so many times a day.
Which if you're a type 2 and you're just checking before meals, that's fine, but if you're someone like
Exactly.
you or anyone we've talked to who it fluctuates hour to
Mhm,
hour, and
mhm.
unless you have something like the Libre or the Dexcom where you can keep,
A
y
track
y
of it.
you're not gonna give me a monitor,
Yeah.
but you're not gonna give me enough strips to test as much as I need to.
Exactly. It was like I remember even when I was pregnant, and being pregnant with type 1 diabetes is very scary. I mean, there are whole groups dedicated to it because it is you just because you have to worry about if your blood sugar goes high, your baby's pancreas makes up for it. That's
Mhm.
why we have larger than normal babies because their pancreases get so large from having to substitute that insulin to bring our blood sugars down.
So when you're pregnant, you're actually working off your baby's pancreas at times?
At times when it's really high,
Mm.
theirs will automatically kick in, and same with their liver, it'll kick in with the different chemicals to bring your blood sugar. It's really, really scary.
Well, there's the
Like,
solution, just stay pregnant all the time, and that way you got a little pancreas inside of you.
dude, my worst doctor who passed away, so I won't say his name, but my
Mm,
worst doctor ever told me
mhm.
that one time. He goes, "Look at my A1C was like 4.9%." It was dangerous, but that's because I didn't want my blood sugar to go high. I
Okay,
didn't want her to hurt.
what's a good A1C range?
A1C, anybody with type 1 diabetes should be under 7%. 6 to 7% is good.
Mhm,
Um, 5 to 6% is great.
mhm.
And like I said, I was 4.9, but I
Okay.
made sure to keep my sugar low. That is how I knew my baby was going to be healthy. I
Mhm,
was getting ultrasounds done every other week. I was having blood work every other week because you have to worry about a lot of things. You
mhm,
have to worry about preeclampsia, which is that's why I ended up having a C-section early
mhm,
because diabetes was just messing with everything. You can see my best friend at the time was pregnant and she had
mm.
gestational diabetes. And it was very interesting to see how her gestational diabetes was like my uncontrolled, oh my God, type 1.
I was gonna ask you about that earlier. What is
Mhm.
gestational diabetes? Like, is it the pancreas stops working while you're pregnant, or
It doesn't do enough.
okay, because
It
you have another being, it's not producing enough for both of
Exactly.
you, or
Yes, so your body might, and I only know a little bit of it of what I've been told.
mhm,
So I'm sure just like with every other type of diabetes, there's probably 1,001 different reasons. But what I had heard was that your body couldn't produce enough insulin for the baby to
okay,
so that this way your doctor saw that when they saw that you were pregnant and you were needing more food and they could see, hey, you have a problem. Some people with gestational diabetes, and that only develops when you're pregnant, but some people will keep a type 1 diagnosis afterwards or a type 2 diagnosis. So a lot of it can change, but it makes you much more susceptible to larger babies, a harder delivery, and more complications at the end.
okay.
So it's rough. I mean, but yeah, no, I had my diabetes on SmackDown because nobody was going to hurt my baby. So, yeah, it wasn't the smartest thing to do at all. I don't recommend, but like we talked about rage bolusing that one time to when your blood sugar's high and just won't move.
Mhm.
And I was like the queen of rage bolusing. I mean, just I'd put down 20 units of insulin and I'd be like, yeah, no, it's still not moving.
Yeah,
Give me another
just
syringe.
just to recap, that's basically when you just keep giving yourself insulin, not even letting it have
Stack
enough time to
bolusing.
kick in. Yeah.
Right,
Which
exactly.
isn't
It's not
Smart.
smart at all.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I say anybody pregnant, very, 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 very
Mhm.
bad thing to do. But
Mhm.
you live and you learn.
It
So
just kind of reminds me of some people's party days where it's like they take a pill and they're like, that
uh,
didn't kick in yet. I better take another one. Oh my gosh, I'm not feeling anything. That better take another one. And then you've taken like 5 pills, or they've taken like 5 pills, and then all of a sudden it just all poof, at once.
No, it makes me think of the edibles jokes you hear a lot of people make. It's the same premise where, like, you take one, you're like, "Da, da, da. No, no, that's
That
cool.
was weak. There was nothing.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
right, we'll give you
Hmm.
another one." But I mean, how funny is it? You knew me in my late teens. How funny is it that I didn't do anything because of the diabetes? Because yeah, growing up, I had the whole look on it. I'm not going to do more needles or any
Hmm.
kind of crazy drugs because I
Yeah.
don't know what it's going to make me do.
Yeah, and it's diabetes is like all the fun of heroin with none of the fun. That's just
Now,
same
you
amount
can't
of
say it like that.
needles.
Do you know how many people that I've had ask me, do you inject that into your vein?
Mm.
I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
if
that
you heard the rattling of the headset, but there was rattling right there because that
mm,
is creepy. I
yeah.
could
I
blah, 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 blah,
I
blah.
had to. I went to the doctor for the first time since I was like 9 or 10 back in November, and they sent me to the lab to draw blood. And I donated blood a couple of times over the years, but there's
But you
nothing
get
more
cookies
uncomfortable.
then.
Yeah, right. And a T-shirt. There's nothing more uncomfortable to me than watching them, put the tourniquet around me and, get that vein popped and then
Yeah,
putting the little con
yeah.
swab and trying. And I always worry because I've had so many friends who show me their bruises from people missing the vein or going through the vein.
Oh,
And
oh.
I always tell the woman, I'm like, look, I'm going to stay perfectly still. I'm going to do whatever I need to do because we are given this one shot.
Yep.
Like, no pun intended. You get
No,
one shot at this. If you miss it or it doesn't work, then I guess we don't find out what's going wrong with me this week. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm
I
not
will
doing
tell
it.
you, I was the exact same way. I mean,
Hmm.
like I never got over my hatred for needles,
Yeah.
obviously, but doing blood work I had a really big problem with. Got pregnant, they needed to do it every other week. I had to get the hell over it.
Hmm.
There was no way around it.
Right.
Go for the transplant. They're taking 42 vials from me
Hmm.
over a 5-hour period. Have to get over it.
Hmm.
I am able to sit there now, and I mean, sometimes it's not always great. When I was in the hospital for my last transplant, a woman I loved came in because she had been there for my first transplant. She was talking to me about everything. She goes, "Listen, doll, I have a student here. He needs to learn how to do his tricks." And okay, go ahead. I know, I was so badass. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, do it. And he blew my vein.
Are
Blew my
you kidding
vein.
me? Yeah.
Oh my God. And you
Which
saw
is
her
that
because
when what's blowing a vein? Is that putting
blowing
oxygen into your
it's
vein?
no, it's just you ruin it to put an IV in it. Like there's no way to put an IV in it afterwards because
Mm,
from what I remember, it was I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. It's gonna make me icky. So Google blowing
mhm,
out a vein. Ugh.
mm.
So
Yeah.
and
I
he
I
did.
won't
He
even
took.
I won't even go
Uh-huh.
to those barber colleges for a free haircut. I'm like, there's some things we just don't leave to students. Okay? Look, they can go ahead and they can practice. There's plenty of medical, there's pigs out there. Have you seen Mythbusters? Pigs are
You're
basically
worried about
people. You're
Sweeney
good to go.
Todd, okay? I get
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things that like I've now gone through enough and I've let enough students try on me because when I used to work at the college that
Mhm.
had phlebotomy teachers and students, they didn't get to poke me. No, no.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. They're like, you'll be my last 250th prick. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
You're gonna find
Mm-mm.
somebody else.
One of the things that I've learned from doing these interviews is there's so much other stuff that kind of piggybacks on diabetes, like stuff that not being a diabetic and not having to knock on wood, worry about it. You don't even think about it. We had Colleen, I think, on the last episode, and she brought up, I had to stop her and ask her about it. I had never heard about it. I know I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, so I'm just going to ask you. It was the eating disorder,
Diabulimia. Yes.
diabulimia. Okay.
Diabulimia.
Now, as a guy who's watched several teen movies of the 80s, bulimia bulimia to me was just always like, okay, there's a girl who's not popular because she's heavy set, so she's throwing up a lot. That's my
Hmm.
medical understanding of bulimia, and I think I'm pretty much wrong. But what
Oh,
is
God love you.
what is diabulimia?
In diabulimia, it's an eating disorder that can affect diabetics, and it basically means that you keep your blood sugars so high that you don't have to eat. You like a lot of the times what a lot of us experience right before we get diagnosed. We experience a lot of thirst, a lot of urination, not so
Hmm.
much eating, and we lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time.
Okay.
This can also be achieved, and this isn't, let me just preface this by saying that this is an incredibly dangerous eating disorder that will kill people. So, to tell you what it is to only give you knowledge, not to tell you that this is a smart way to do things. But it's somebody who keeps their blood sugar so dangerously high that they don't want to eat, and therefore you lose weight. Because, I mean, it's not like you don't want to eat and you're starving yourself. It
Hmm.
honestly isn't. You don't want to eat, you will eat the very teeniest bit imaginable. I would skip breakfast and lunch. And, like, okay, so you know my mom, an Italian
Hmm.
mom all the way. I had to eat something for dinner, but I was able to keep it at the bare minimum and never feel like I was depriving myself of food because my blood sugar was just so high. So you drop weight drastically, and if you keep on with this, you will get unbelievable problems later on. I mean, you're causing yourself an insane amount of nerve damage because that's what the high blood sugar does. Is it slowly? That's why we get neuropathy, we get numbness in our fingers and our toes, we get problems with our eyes where we can go blind, which one thing that happened to Melissa, such bad stabilization of her blood sugar led her to go blind in one eye. I mean, but you also have to look at it from the other point of view. There are some people that are doing it not by choice. There are some people that are doing it because they have to ration their insulin because their insurance companies won't cover it.
Right.
And I don't get that. I don't, as we talked about earlier, I don't understand how they can so easily dismiss a doctor's orders.
Mm. Yeah, when we get to talking about insurance and everything, and I know last week we were a little bit excited because Trump was finally signing some stuff, trying to get some. And I think it's a push because it's an election year, and he's trying to get people on his side, try and pull something right. But even if that's the reason, if it's going to mean cheaper medication and more access to better medication, I'm all for it. Um, However, when I was looking at it, there's so many politicians
Caveats.
out there, politicians out there who get over $100,000 donated from big pharma companies.
Yeah.
400,000, 500,000, $1 million. I just have to, and it's for the campaign, for their
Hmm.
campaigns, for their campaigns. But it just makes me wonder why. Like what reason other than having someone who, and this is the problem with lobbying, in general,
Hmm.
but why should there be anyone from a company like big pharma or the oil
Mm.
industry or anything like that giving that much money to someone who has direct power to decide how that companies are going to be regulated, because it's never for the good of people. It's never for the good of the poor or the common person that big pharma is giving $1 million to this candidate, $1 million. It just makes me believe more so that when something has to come to a vote about insurance prices or making things more accessible, anything that's going to take money out of the big pharmacy's pocket, that's when they're like, hey, remember when we gave you $1 million? It was so you would
Yeah,
say no to things like this. And the fact that that's all legal is ridiculous and stupid. It's not just big
it's
pharma, it's anything in
horrifying.
general. Why?
It is horrifying to think that. I mean, my daughter came up to me today and she goes, "Mommy, do you know they get free healthcare in Canada?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I do." And
Mhm,
she goes, "If I didn't love my friends so much here, I would want to be a Canadian."
mm,
She goes, "This way you could get what you need for free."
yeah,
Like, how sad is it when a little girl
mhm,
knows that things are unfair? And I mean, I've tried to be as point of fact with her as I can
mhm,
because I believe you should be. I believe
mhm,
that I should be able to explain to her what's happening so that she understands why I'm upset after my 25th phone call with
mhm,
people.
mhm.
But it's sad to see her go out. Like, I don't understand it. Why do they get it? It's like, oh, honey, I
Well,
wish we knew.
it's funny because anytime I have that conversation with someone, they're like, "Oh, well, if you want universal health care, then you got to realize you're gonna be getting taxed a lot more." I'm like, "Is it more than $700 a month? Because that's what I'm paying right now, and that covers barely anything." Like
And that's the
it's
thing.
good. It's good, but it's good as in, hey, I can go somewhere and get seen by a doctor and get a prescription written, but God forbid you gotta go have surgery. There's stories of people like in England that break their arm on vacation and go to the hospital and don't even get a bill.
Yep.
You're good to go. Where in
Yep.
America, they're like, "Thank you, that's $350,000." Well, you got the ambulance, and then we had to charge you 1,200 for the two Advil, and then we charged you for diapers just in case you needed them.
You didn't, but that didn't mean we didn't
That
pull them
doesn't
out.
mean we didn't have them ready for you if you need them. So whenever someone's like, "Yeah, it's going to cost you more," I'm like, I expect to pay that because
Yep.
here's the thing: I would rather be paying for something I agree with than all this other stuff going on over here that I never gave my permission for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could see that directly benefit me as well. I would love. Plus, what I just went through now, trying to do things right, having a
Hmm.
job with a company that my insurance was through. When the government ordered a
Good.
shutdown,
Hmm.
when the government ordered my company like, hey, we can't have you open with more than this number of employees working, so we need, since my insurance was through my company which the government ordered to shut down,
Hmm.
I lost my insurance. And all of a
And
sudden there's the,
you had said your friend. I'm sorry, I
yep,
didn't mean to interrupt. You said your friend who has a type 1 child
yep,
was
yep.
also
uh,
like,
with no notice, the day that we had our conference call that we were getting laid off, I called Blue Cross Blue Shield the next day and my
hmm.
insurance had already been canceled. So when people are like, "Oh, you don't want your insurance tied to the government," and it's like, well, if the government can make the decision to shut down the company that I'm getting my
Yep.
insurance through during a national, not even worldwide health pandemic, then
Hmm.
maybe I do need to tie it to the government because that way I still get it when things like this happen. You know?
I don't know if I've ever made this comment before on our show, but it makes me think of the worldwide pandemic and what have you, like zombie apocalypse. Okay,
Sure.
so I'd be fucked. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. Take that out. I would be screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it doesn't have a shelf life for more than maybe 2 years and thing.
Right.
But I felt really bad because in my family we talk about the zombie apocalypse a lot. Just I don't know if you can see, but I have lawn gnomes
Mm-hmm.
of zombies. It's beautiful. But my daughter, I guess, said to Josh, okay, well, we would have to go to one of those big companies and get insulin for mommy. And he's like, oh, honey, the insulin goes bad. And then she was like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Then I smacked him. I'm like, you should have lied and told her. Like, that's when mommy goes hunting for a pancreas. We'll find it.
That's right. We'll make it happen.
But
Yeah,
this
and
is the way you feel. And a lot of times in a lot of different scenarios, like, yes, it's dramatic, but being told that I can't get what I need, or anybody can't get what they need, something that they have to live on.
mm,
Being told, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go to the ER," which I have personally been told by insurance companies before because they wouldn't okay my insulin. And I was like, "Well, what do I do? It's the weekend. My doctor's not." Go to the ER, honey.
and that's what Tracy Herbert was telling us when she was in Colorado.
Mhm.
She had tried to plan. She's like, because when you're diabetic, you got to plan out everything. She's like, I kept everything refrigerated. I did everything I was supposed to do. I brought extra. I did everything properly,
Mhm.
but I just ended up with a bad batch of insulin.
Yeah.
And she's like, and I need to get more, but because I didn't have a prescription, because once again, why can't you just get a prescription and not need to get another prescription all the time? You're going to have it
Exactly.
until there's a cure. Until there's a
Yeah.
cure, you're going to have it. So just give
There's
me,
no solving it. If
yeah,
you get a type 1 diagnosis, you are not getting cured unless you're paying through the ass for
mhm,
immunosuppressives because you got a transplant.
yeah,
Aside from that,
yeah.
you are always going to need insulin.
And it's not like a category 1 drug where people are like, "Hey, let me buy your insulin off you." You know, it's not like people are getting high off it. And yeah, she had to they told her that she would have to go to the emergency room
Hmm.
and or call an ambulance, which is right away $3,000, right?
Easy. I mean,
So,
that's if they don't have to push any IV fluid in you.
yeah, yeah. So,
Stupid.
has there been anything like I learn something new every week. Every person we talk to, I'm learning something new. But has there been anything that you've learned talking with these people, the type 1 diabetes? Because I mean, you live with it every day, but has there been anything that you've heard from someone that said, wow, I didn't know that?
I wholeheartedly love listening to people's experiences. Because there was a large part of my life that I never knew anyone else with type 1, or I was never close to anyone with type 1.
Hmm.
I loved being the operative word, hearing about diabulimia from Colleen. Um, it helped it helped me realize the things that I had wanted to do because you put on weight whether you like it or not with insulin. It's like steroids, a side effect, you put on some weight, insulin, you put on some weight. There are people like Tracy is in badass shape
Hmm.
and she puts a lot into that. And from her, I got to really learn how the right mindset can be the best you.
Hmm.
You know, I think that going through everybody and meeting everybody and becoming friends with everybody, like Melissa and I have been friends for a while now, but she's the person that I call to, and I cry when I get upset because things are just unfair. And it's not like, oh, it's unfair. Well, I have to switch to generic now. It's not that easy. And it kills me that everyone seems to think it is and nobody sees the real problems. And like, I love that Kelly, one of our guests, her and her brother both have diabetes,
Hmm.
and how her parents were very laid back when she got diagnosed because they were like, ah, been there, done that, we're cool. And I admired that because you need a full support system for every single step of this. Like, there are days that I don't think I could have honestly made it without knowing that there were people that loved and cared about me and wanted me to make it, because it gets so hard. You're fighting so many people and you just want to sit there and just go, I didn't do this to myself. I didn't I didn't decide one day funnel cakes off a life and give myself, like, I didn't do anything. But nobody understands that. So
Hmm.
you're constantly calling and leaving voicemails for people for everything to get approved. And then when it doesn't get approved, it breaks your heart. I
Hmm.
mean, and that's the only way I can describe it. Like, I was so lucky, so lucky to have a girl on one of my groups.
Mhm.
Ask if anyone wanted to talk about how the weather was doing. She had 2 sensors for the Libre,
Mhm.
and, she asked if but, of course, not naming names because everything's very illegal,
Mm.
and, she didn't need them,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Yeah, I desperately need them," and she didn't ask for anything. She was like, "Just pay it forward when you get an overabundance of supplies."
So, just to recap, basically, there's a girl that had the sensors that your insurance isn't currently authorizing for you. She had extra ones, and because it's illegal to sell or give away.
To give away to someone else. I mean, because yeah, she wasn't selling them, but to
Mhm.
give away to somebody else, it is illegal because it's durable medical equipment.
Okay.
And it puts a whole lot of things. And she just asked if anybody wanted to talk about the weather in
Is
a
that
very cute
diabetic code
post.
for?
Not even that. She put a little signifiers in there, but I don't want to say what it was because I don't want
Mhm.
the group to hear it and have any problems. But every now and then, we have to do that for each other. Like I have sent when I stopped using the Dexcom, when I stopped being able to afford the hardware for it, I had some stabby things left. And the stabby things are great. The stabby things will cost you 3 of them will be like $300. Or no, I'm sorry, 6 of them will be $300. It's insane. But I
Mhm.
had some left and they were going to expire soon. They're obviously sealed and not
Mhm.
used, but I just put them out there and I was like, "Hey, just" it was gonna cost a lot to ship them. So I was like, "Hey, cover shipping."
Mhm.
And they're yours, you know,
Mhm.
but you have to do that sometimes because your insurance will all of a sudden change and say, "Oh, okay, we're not gonna cover this glucometer that you have. You now have to find a new one. We'll tell you which ones." I shot and I know we have to wrap this up soon. I shot myself in the foot. I feel like I shot myself in the foot, so I'm gonna talk about it real quick, and I'm not gonna cry. I have been waiting since the end of June for Freestyle Libre sensors for my
Mhm.
glucometer. Okay, it's also known as a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, but you have to zoom it. So it's not as cool as Dexcom. Dexcom just Wi-Fi's it to your phone all the time.
Right.
This you have to zoom with a reader or the app
Mhm.
on your phone.
Mhm.
I have been fighting with them since the end of June, and I have not gotten them yet. I called them yesterday,
Mhm.
yesterday, and it still said it was in process. I asked to talk to somebody, and by this point, it's still in process, and I lost it. And I was like, just cancel it. Cancel the order because you're holding up any hope that I can get it anywhere else. That's holding it up with the insurance. And she goes, okay. And she was really nice, and I couldn't yell at her, which breaks my heart because I
Mhm.
won't yell at nice people. But she was like, call your insurance. Just tell them that you've stopped it. Called my insurance. She goes, yeah, we just got the pre authorization for it. I canceled the order. I can't go back to Edge Park and restart the order. I canceled the order. I would have to start from scene one all over again.
So what's your option right now?
Wait until the nice girl's order comes in and it gives me a month. I don't know. I It's stupid and it's unfair. It's very unfair, and I think anybody who watches this, and I hope people do, I hope they watch it and I hope they go, wow, this is really cool. This is really amazing to watch that we get to hear about all these crazy things that I feel like I'm the only one that goes through. And you can see that we all have our hangups, but it's just really unfair. And I wish the manufacturers of the pumps and the insulin knew how much insurance was screwing them out of money. Because if we were just able to pick, it would be very obvious of which pumps would be the favorite and for what reasons. And if your doctor that is approved by your insurance prescribes it for you, there should be no reason you don't get it. I get if your insulin needs changed drastically. And then, yeah, you need a pre-auth. Totally understand. Back up your buck. But I am never not going to need this medicine. And the fact I have to get a pre-auth every 6 months for a disease that I've had for over 20 years, it's cruel.
So what's the solution? What needs to change? What needs to happen?
We need to reach out to people. We need to reach out to lawmakers. We need to reach out to the companies that make the supplies, not the vendors. The vendors are mean and are only in it for the money, just like the one that I used to use that resides in a park. They're evil. The edge of the park. But they're evil. And when I called up my insurance and I told them, I was like, listen, I canceled my order because I can't deal with them anymore. And as soon as I said the company's name, the insurance lady was like, oh yeah, no, I understand. My doctor's office hates them. Like, how do you become a vendor, somebody who's supposed to give the most important of needs, and you're a jerk? And I'm trying not to curse. You're a jerk. So it needs to start with us getting the message out there. I told Ella today, if a multi-billionaire's child ever got diagnosed with diabetes, we would have a cure within years. It's the way it is.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we would have a cure or if insurance would change at all because they could afford to get them the best treatments out there right now.
Very true. Very true. But there would be something.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be as many people being told you can't develop what you want to develop because we're going to buy your company out because we don't want you to be able to do it. Like, who is that, Colleen or Kelly? I don't remember. I think it was Colleen said that big pharma companies buy out little
Oh,
companies.
we were talking about that last week with Colleen.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things I don't understand the profit. And I especially don't understand it when they tell me that I can't get something and I'm like, I'm going to end up in the ER. You all are going to spend a whole lot more money if you don't tell me yes to this.
It's the same reason that we're not supposed to have monopolies of communications and everything like that. When you have three companies, you think they're competing with each other, but they learned long ago that it's easier to get in the same room if you're like, look, this costs us pennies to make. Let's all agree that we're all, rather than undercutting each other, let's all agree that we're going to charge this ridiculous amount since we're the only show in town.
Did you all never play 4-player Monopoly before? I mean, come on. You squeeze out the cheapie. Like, that's what I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm trying
No, I think you do get it, and that's the problem. That's what's frustrating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't get anything else. So I'm going to keep fighting and I'm going to keep updating, with what happens. Right now, I'm still being told no on my insulin and my Libre sensors.
Now, like, that's your insurance saying we're not going to provide that, we're not going to pay on that. But if you wanted to go out of pocket, how hard is it for you? Like, if you had the money, how hard would it be for you to walk in and be like, I want this?
My mom sent me a coupon, and it was for 2 sensors for, I think, $116. So 2 sensors would last me a month, which means I would pay $116 plus every month for something that supposedly my insurance covers for free. Which is honestly, like, I know I could go to Good RX and things like that and get some sort of discount, because they are good on different things. I could even contact Libre and ask if they have a discount card. Sometimes they'll send you like 10% off or 15% off. But the problem is you're still spending at least $100, $200. a month that I am spending on insurance.
Mhm.
Like, I'm paying a company and then
Right.
I have to, and it's not even going to go towards my deductible.
Right.
What kind of BS?
I
So
don't know.
I just, I don't know. I always say, roll me in cinnamon and call me cured.
Yeah. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, how if it's going to be like that anyways, why isn't there an option to just go straight to the manufacturer? Like, hey, look, why do we even need? I have this disease. Like, I get that you make all this other stuff, all these other pills, but this is
Mm-hmm.
something I'm going to have for the rest of my life. So you guys make it, you manufacture it, and then you're selling it off to these vendors. I just want to buy directly. It's
And you
it's like when you
can't.
go to a car auction. You're like, why am I going to pay markup
Yeah.
on the dealer lot when I can get the same car from you without all the overhead? You're getting the money that you want for the car. I'm paying the money I want to pay. Why do we got to bring anyone else into this?
But you think about it, how many people actually need that kind of product? How many people you need to have a force to deal with those incoming and outgoing calls and prior authorizations? And it's cheaper to
Hmm.
sell stuff off to the vendor and let them mark it up.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. You don't have to worry. Like, God love Dexcom, and I haven't dealt with Dexcom in a few years, but I am on some of their groups, and I get to read about it constantly. Like, Dexcom used to be all USA based, which no hate going out to any other countries. But when you are calling for the fourth time in a month to figure out where your order is, you don't want to have to alpha beta your name at that point.
Yeah.
And customer service dropped immensely. And people are feeling that now. People are feeling the effects of not being able to have that. I like knowing that my company's okay, you're a few states away, then you realize how long it's going to take to get to me.
Hmm.
And you don't always have that with these other when they sell them out, when
Right.
they sell the call centers or whatnot out. Like I said, the customer service drops, unfortunately.
Hmm. Well, we got a few more minutes here. So I guess I'll just wrap it up with asking you what's the most entertaining thing you've heard from these podcasts we've done? Like, what really just made you, whether it was because it just related to your frustrations, or you thought you were the only one going through it, or just something ridiculous that you
uh,
never even thought of?
okay, so most entertaining. Can I put most meaningful instead? Would that
Sure,
be
why
okay?
not? Yeah.
My most meaningful would be Colleen.
Mm.
Her just talking about her experiences and how she's getting through everything and forgiving yourself. Diabetes, I think, is a very self hateful disease because you are 99% of the time your own doctor, your own mentor, your own support group, and your own advocate. It gets to weigh on you. And sometimes things are made easier by not doing them correctly.
Hmm.
And we can't afford that with what we do. So, hearing from somebody else that she had to ultimately forgive herself for what she was doing, it it lightened my heart a little because it
Is that
makes you feel
something?
hopeful.
Is that something you've gone through personally?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to hate yourself when you think that your disease is the reason why everybody isn't doing well in your family. Um, why you're not making enough money, or why you can't work, or why your insurance is too expensive, or even just describing to your daughter after you have a low and she finds you unresponsive on the floor. You learn and you realize that not everybody has empathy, but you can have empathy for yourself and you can forgive yourself for things that you can't always control. So that would be the most.
Yeah,
I
that's a
love
great.
everybody that we talk to. I really
Yeah.
do. I think they're great and their
Hmm.
experiences have been really super awesome to hear about. I want to have many more people. I especially want to have type 2 diabetics because I don't know a lot about it and I would
Hmm.
love to have people come on and just educate me more on it.
Well, they're too busy living a totally normal life.
Damn
I'm
it.
kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, I definitely want to get some type 2 diabetics on soon. Um, all right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for this week. You know, we had decided a while back that we were just gonna. We haven't had just you and I since the first episode,
Right.
and the first episode was basically, I kind of blindsided you. I'm like, well, let's just get you on. We'll
I
do a
was
sound check,
slightly
see if it
drunk.
even.
I cursed
Yeah.
a lot.
Well,
It was
it was
gaslighting.
it was more along the lines of let's just get you on and let's
Hmm.
make sure we have the sound stuff and the video works, and then we just started talking. I'm like, well, you know what, let's record this and we'll put it out if we feel like it. And but that was the last time. It was just kind of you and I on the
Yeah.
show, and you had mentioned you thought it'd be good to just kind of have another one with both of
Touch
us and
base.
no guests, touch
Hmm.
base and talk about the people we've had on. And I think it was good because it's one thing to interview people every week, but you never really get that opportunity to download and process and kind of feel it out. So
Yeah. And
yeah, I like
sometimes
this.
it's just nice to hear a recap of
Yeah,
things. It's nice to just, hey, look at all the cool things that we've learned. Look at the fun experiences that we've heard and people we've met. So I
yeah.
agree completely.
So yeah, I think it was a good call. I think we should probably do this. After every 4 or 5 interviews or something, sit
I
down
like
and
that.
discuss everything. Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. Well, oh, I'm sorry. You brought us in, so you get to bring us out.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our recap for all the guests and me venting on all the BS. But we hope to see you again. Hit like, subscribe, and, stay with us.
Yeah. What she said. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great night.
Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I